Good afternoon and welcome to the July 16th, 2025 City Council Work Session. Thank you for joining us in this virtual meeting format. For work sessions like this one, where there is no opportunity for public comment, those wishing to access the meeting can do so by watching the live stream available on our website, the broadcast on Comcast Channel 21, or by calling in to one of the phone numbers listed for this meeting on the public webcasts and meeting materials webpage. Thank you again for joining us. I now call the July 16th, 2025 work session of the Eugene City Council to order. The Eugene City Council will now meet in executive session held pursuant to ORS 192.660 (2) to review and evaluate employment-related performance. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the meeting. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to record or report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the meeting. Councilors, please log out of this public meeting and log back in using the executive session Zoom invitation. Thank you for joining us for the July 16th, 2025 City Council Work Session. I will now turn to the Interim Employee and Labor Relations Manager, Becky DeWitt, to introduce our next topic.
Thank you so much, Councilor. This work session is for Council to discuss compensation options as part of the formal presiding municipal court judge evaluation, as well as recognize the work of the Judicial Evaluation Committee. On May 12th, Council appointed the following members of the Judicial Evaluation Committee, a few of which are here with us today. Blake Burrell, Human Rights Commission past chair, Ashley Weiss, partner at Eckert, Wilsman & Weiss, Brooke Reinhard of Reinhard Law, the Honorable Jay McAlpin, presiding judge for Lane County Circuit Court, as well as Tracy Epler from Laurel Hill Mental Health Services. I'd like to take a minute to thank those committee members for their hard work and dedication to this process. They did give up several evenings to this past few months to accomplish the report that has been accepted by you today. And it's been greatly appreciated by staff. So we really appreciate that. This is also an opportunity for Council to discuss the compensation options provided for this item. As Council employee, Judge Gill has a current employment contract that allows for discretionary salary adjustments. Council has the sole authority to determine the compensation and has a wide variety of options, including but not limited to directing staff to execute an employment agreement amendment. Options have been provided to you both in the AIS as well as in Attachment B, and they include providing a compensation adjustment equivalent to a 1 or 2 step increase on the current salary grade, providing an alternative merit increase or no merit increase. With that, I will just turn it over back to the Council President.
Thank you for that presentation, Becky. I will now open the floor for Council discussion. Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Vice President. And I want to start by thanking Becky DeWitt for taking, pulling this all together for us. I know it's a lot of work. And I also want to really thank the panel that got together and helped review this. I think it's very useful to have others in the legal profession that review the work of our presiding municipal court judge, as I think it's helpful in other areas of our city as well. Specifically speaking to Judge Gill, I really appreciate how you approach problems. You dig in, you figure out problems that we've experienced for some time, and you apply innovative solutions, especially the restorative justice programs that you've brought to the table. And I think that just helps with the overall crowding of our judicial legal system, and I appreciate that immensely. You've been gracious and taken the time in providing the tours and meeting, I know, with me and all of us periodically, and I find that very useful as well. I think you perform well above expectations. I think that was supported by the evaluation process that you underwent. And I'll say I'm certainly going to support option B, and I think you deserve it. So with that, I'll just shut down what I have to say here, and I really am glad that you're with us. I hope you stay for a long time.
Thank you, Councilor Groves. Councilor Zelenka?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you to the panel and to all the others that participated in the survey. It's in particular very helpful to us as counselors to have the opinions and the comments from people that interact with the judge and the court on a regular basis. Having that kind of regular interactions and having their experiences reflected in the comments and in the evaluation is very, very helpful to us, for those of us that don't regularly interact with the judge. And so with that, I read through all the materials and glowing marks from almost everybody, and the remarks about what a great job you're doing. I just want to thank you for the great work that you're doing, especially with the alternative courts, restorative justice stuff that's going on. I think that's we got a well-run court, and I think you're the right person for the job. And so thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Councilor Zelenka. Councilor Ye?
Thanks. So Judge Gill, I just wanted to, so I did not prepare this, so it's going to come out a little weird, but I think we often focus on large, complicated crimes that are at higher levels, but our local system deals with people's everyday lives, everyday things that affect their futures and their presence and their families and their friends. They may seem small sometimes. They don't make the news necessarily. They don't make documentaries about it, but they affect people so profoundly. And one of the things I have always appreciated from you is how you understand your impact and how you look. I think some of the other counselors already mentioned it, for ways to hold people accountable. But your ultimate goal always feels like, how can I help this person? How can I help them in their next step in their lives so that they're not back in front of me again, right? And we have a great system here because of you and the people that came before you that had that mindset. And so I think we're so fortunate to live in this city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ye. I want to step in here myself and concur with my fellow counselors, and what a great, amazing job that you are doing in this role. Like Councilor Ye mentioned, these innovative programs and services that we are able to provide, that you have, started here. I really think that they're amazing, and I'm excited to see what you have next. Because I know you are one of those people that is never quite satisfied with the status quo. So you're always going to be looking at how to keep improving, how to keep serving our people better, and providing a just system. And so I very much appreciate that. If there's no other questions or comments from council, I will put a motion on the table. I move to award Judge Gill a merit salary increase of 2 steps, which is equivalent to step 10 on grade 12, about $191,817.60 annually, or $92.22 hourly, and to authorize the Council President to execute an amendment to Gill's employment contract with the awarded salary increase.
Second.
Any discussion from council? I will now, Councilor Keating.
Thank you, Council. Vice President, I was just late in the queue to add my voice of kudos and appreciation to Judge Gill, and I'm thrilled that there's seemingly consensus around this motion. Thank you for floating it. And Judge Gill, you and your team at Muni are a shining example of how to embrace justice for all. The rest of the country looks to Eugene in particular because of the work that you do. I'm an enthusiastic yes.
Thank you, Councillor Keating. I will now take the vote for this motion. Those in favor, please raise your hand. That is 7 out of 7 today. So that is unanimous. So the motion passes with the vote of 7. And so that concludes our topic today. I will now turn to the city manager to introduce our final topic.
Thank you so much, and congratulations, Judge Gill. I think that is the fastest evaluation ever in the history of time, so good work.
I'll take it. Thank you. And thank you all for stepping up.
Our second topic is an overview of our library levy, and I'm joined by our library director, Angela Ocaña, who's going to lead us through that review.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to do the fun part, which is sharing technology, which I hope goes well. It already looks like it's not, so I won't panic. Nope. Okay, the real question is, can you see the really big screen and not the one that has my name on it?
No, it's showing the two slides, the one and the next one.
Oh, this is a delight. Thank you, Council, for being present while I stop sharing and reshare. Okay. Did I get it?
Yeah, it looks great, Angela.
Wonderful. When we talk about the digital divide, you'll figure out why I can't push buttons on a screen. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Angela Ocaña. I'm your Library Services Director, and I'm very pleased to report on the year 3 of the local library option that spans July 2023 to July 2024. This levy was renewed in 2020 and approved by 76% of voters. Your report will highlight our commitment to hours and access, programs and services, and materials and technology as a part of our commitment to accountability and transparency. But I'm going to start today with the library's mission: to provide equitable resources and opportunities for everyone to create a connected, caring, and inspired community. By the numbers, Eugene continues to have one of the busiest libraries in Oregon. We've seen steady gains every year since the pandemic and have been able to increase our circulation, total materials, and programming over the previous year. We saw over 800,000 visitors while being open 160 hours each week across 3 locations. So I want to take a moment just to touch on some of the unique areas that the library and our branches serve towards. At our Sheldon branch, we focus on older adults and adults with developmental disabilities. Our Bethel branch looks to early literacy, Spanish language outreach, and strengthening the Bethel community through partnerships, while our Downtown Youth Services team looks to increase reading proficiency and confidence, building upon those essential assets of all youth, while our adult team focuses on community recovery and community engagement. Now, we've seen anecdotal information since the pandemic that our community is asking for programs and collections and spaces that foster connection with each other. So we've added programs like our Philosophy Circle, facilitated by University of Oregon philosophy professors, which discuss ideas of what it really means to live in a community. We've tapped into local businesses and independent artists to facilitate workshops and increased our weekly story times. We know that loneliness often affects new parents. And while story times are great developmentally for young children, it also provides much needed connection for these new parents. We still maintain one of the largest collections of publicly available hotspots in Oregon, connecting us digitally. And we added maker materials to our home delivery service that connects our homebound patrons to the library. The library is one of the last third spaces available in our community. It's a place that is not just home or work, but it's a place to be. And the downtown library is the largest building freely open and available to the public in Eugene. We're also very intentional in carving out spaces that meet these emerging needs. For example, this is our Tween Center. It focuses on youth 9 to 12, and it's a space for them to connect with their peers, and it has age-appropriate materials that focus on puberty, art, and mental health. So a report from the American Libraries found that libraries are drawing even Gen Z and millennials who don't self-identify as readers. More than half of the 43% of Gen Z and millennials who don't self-identify as readers have been to their local library in the past 12 months. The study is reinforcing that we are in the right path for diversifying our spaces and offering it as a third space to our community. The library has always been my Zen place. This quote is from a guest at the Mission. In the previous levy, we partnered with the Mission to take programs to them, and this year we took the show on the road and hosted classes with Mission guests here at the library. Having access to a library card and its services are empowering for people in our community from all walks of life. The work at our Sheldon branch focuses on serving community members with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We partner with the TENS Network and the Sheldon High School and the Community Living Program, CLP. Our programs focus on inclusion and empowerment in a safe environment. And these are some of our most vulnerable populations who then have built a safe space at the library that go on to meet new people in their community and then build new relationships. The City of Eugene's Information Services Division, as well as the Office of Equity and Community Engagement, hosted a digital equity panel in 2023 and 2024. And the panel identified a number of issues in our community, including limited access to devices that use broadband service and a lack of digital skills necessary to access those resources, like employment, education, and medical services. So throughout the panel's meetings, the group discussed challenges that could be addressed by bringing in skilled digital navigators. Well, here at the library, we call that the digital divide, and it affects people of all ages and social and economic levels. So this year of the levy, the library brought back its drop-in tech help, which helps community members do everything from making the text figure on your phone, clicking the right button in a PowerPoint, and setting up an account on LinkedIn. Finally, our book bins, which expanded this year, empowers young readers to find materials on their own, doing away with the limitations of the Dewey Decimal System, and it continues to be one of our highest circulating book collections at the library. And this isn't work we just do on the local level, but on a national level. Our book bins and tween space were programs at this year's library conference held right here in Eugene. And our work at Sheldon led us to a guest lecture for a class at the Alabama Library School. We hold equity and access to be a core value at the library through the city. And we always consider who's not at the table and how these inequitable systems keep them from being there. This year, we expanded our partnership with the Holt Center to offer free tickets to 10 for 10 series in the Cuthbert Amphitheater. It expands free cost arts to more of our community members. We added a free monthly notary service at the downtown library, and we expanded our Criando Lectores Spanish early literacy program at Bethel. And we added outreach visits to the Little Wolverines, which is the daycare for children of Willamette High School students. Our author talk for the year featured Diane Wilson and her book, Seed Keepers, which speaks to the Indigenous experience and the generational power held in relationship to food and farms. Okay, let me introduce you to the Bibliomatico. We love to name things here at the library, so a book vending machine was no exception. With a name like Bibliomatico, you can't not love him. It lives in our Youth Services Department, and it was started as a partnership with the Lane County African American Black Student Success Program. This vending machine book dispenser utilizes tokens, which we give to community partners to hand out to the youth that they work with. The library features authors from traditionally marginalized populations and main characters from diverse backgrounds. The Bibliomatico allows children to keep these inclusive books and build their home collections, not needing to return them. It helps create lifelong readers who can see a more compassionate, inclusive work through the power of diverse books. The intention is for these tokens to be used as a relationship building tool, not a reward or a prize, but rather as a way to build excitement for reading and coming to the library, and hopefully encouraging that lifelong love of reading. Okay, quiz time, everybody. Our Library of Things continues to allow community members to check out unique maker items. It's really great. It reiterates our commitment to sustainability and the sharing economy that libraries are based on. So the question to you, what does our Library of Things not have? An outdoor projector kit, a weird chair made of stuffies, Holt Show tickets, melody harps, sewing machines, Star Wars cake pans, portable CD players, Dash robots, indoor air quality monitors, Wingspan the board game, Cascade Raptor tickets, paper shredder, or nationally recognized robot therapy companion cats? Okay, lock it in, think. I'll get it in the Q&A if you are right. Don't cheat. The answer is
none of the above.
a weird chair of stuffies. But give us some time. We are borrowing it, so you may be lucky enough, Councilor Clark, to sit on it at our 31st annual Teddy Bear Picnic this Saturday, 11 a.m. at the Amazon Community Center.
I want a picture if that happens.
All right. Last but not least, this is a letter from Lucy and her mom who visit our Bethel and Sheldon libraries. And just like council letters, I'm sure you know, I wish library letters all came on rainbow stationery with unicorns. My favorite line from the letter, it's been a tough time for us, and you've all been more like a family to us. And I just want to say you've made a great impact on our lives. For me, it's proof positive that a library card truly makes a difference in folks' lives. And that concludes your library levy report, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you so much for that excellent and very engaging presentation. I will now open the floor for council discussion. Councilor Kaczynski, followed by Councilor Zelenka.
I just want to say, and the library that we have in Eugene is really a shining spot in our community. And thank you for all of the work that you do and all of the folks at the library do to help ensure that our community has this amazing resource. So thank you.
Councilor Zelenka.
Thanks. Impressive presentation. The library is just impressive. 2.8 million circulation. No wonder we got a 76% yes vote on the levy. Over 1,100 programs, over 800,000 people visit per year. I thought there were some interesting things like the collection of 1.8 million items, but 1.4 million of them are digital compared to only 436,000 that were physical. It's kind of the transition to a modern library that we've been seeing in the last decade or so. Not your grandfather's library. With regard to the levy, I think you said in the write-up, promises made, promises kept, and I think that's very true here. I think you've done a really good job. Well done. And I think citizens of Eugene should actually see and take note that you're getting a really good value for these tax dollars. I was going to ask about Bibliomatico and the vending machine for tokens, but you went into that in detail. I think that's so cool. Kids have to keep the books. That's just, I guess one question I had about that is how do we distribute the tokens and who gets to give them out, and what do they use to give them out?
Yeah, community partners. So we were in early agreement when Lane got the grant, is that we didn't want it to be a reward-based system for teachers and schools who may use them to reward kids. We really believe in the idea that even bad kids get to read good books. And so we didn't want that to be a tool. So what we did instead is we created an online form that any of our community partners can apply for. They just say what they're going to use the tokens for, where it's going to be distributed, and then we work with those community partners to give them those tokens, and then they distributed them as a targeted way to work with their audiences, not just the folks who come into the library already.
Yeah, cool. And the comics collection just seems like a really cool, it's hugely wide used. I have this quote from Mark Twain on my desk here because it keeps coming up over and over again. It says, what gets us into trouble is not what we don't know. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so. And the library helps us make sure that that doesn't happen. So good work. Thank you very much for all the work that you're doing and all the people that work on the library. It's a very important part of what makes Eugene a special city.
Absolutely.
Councillor Keating.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Piggybacking off what Councillor Zelenka said, I would say impressive, most impressive. A Star Wars quote, because you hearkened a galaxy far, far away, and my ears perked up, but I didn't quite pick up in the library of things, in the galaxy of things, what Star Wars things were you pointing out?
If you would like to get, I think it's a Death Star cake pan, you can. The fun fact, my stepmom, when I was a kid, wanted to make a cake for my little sister. And so she went out and had to buy a Cookie Monster cake pan. That cake pan lived in our cabinet, never to be used again. And so it found its way into waste or a resale. And so our cake pan collection is this nod, I think, to folks who want to use cool and interesting things, but don't always have the money to invest. And so we try to celebrate a lot of nerdy but cute things in our cake pan collection, everything from bumblebees to the Death Star to castles and fairies.
Thank you, Angela. So that's no moon, that's a cake pan. On a more serious note, talking about library accessibility, it was not long ago that this council took action, appropriate. So I'm pleased that we did, to limit or ban unauthorized camping in front of the library or within 1,000 feet of the library or of any accredited school in Eugene city limits. It's about 2.5 city blocks. How has that helped the library become more accessible, if at all? Are you seeing the results? Are they a net positive? And what can council do to drive home accessibility for a library that serves all safely?
Yeah, I would say that action by council was essential. At that time, I think we were facing a lot of behavioral issues. I think the state mandated something that was in flux for cities. And without that, I think we would not necessarily have the library that we have today. So I would just say that was very essential for how the library operates. Adding on to that, when you talk about what does that look like for a library, for me, it's always a thriving downtown. The more downtown development we do and how library fits into the economic thriving of downtown, of more housing downtown, more families downtown, that's what I think really builds to a safer, better community. And so the work that we're doing over the next 5 years is to think about how library plays a vital role in economic development, specifically for the downtown library, and how we can be a part of that. You know, we are a no barrier kind of place. Anybody can come here. But that doesn't mean that we don't play a part in the vitality of downtown. And so looking more and more and more about how we can facilitate those partnerships, whether it's through our downtown EPD HUD station, whether it's through LTD, relationships with Holt, small businesses, that's kind of how I think of a thriving downtown, which includes the library.
Thank you so much. And please give our appreciation, or my appreciation, I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but I trust that there's appreciation already. Please give individual and our collective appreciation to all library staff, patrons, and as my colleagues have mentioned earlier, to the voters who've continuously and enthusiastically stood on the right side of history and in the library's corner. So thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you, Keating.
Thank you, Councillor Keating. Councillor Groves.
Thank you, Vice President, and thank you, Angela, for the presentation. I think we all recognize that our library is unique amongst libraries in the variety and scope and magnitude of the services that are provided. I recognize that our library enjoys good support from our community, which I think that's important to understand. I also want to mention, Councillor Keating, I appreciate you asking that question about changes with some of our changes to our ordinances to protect the library and point out that how much better things are around the library yet we're still hearing problems in other parts of our downtown, in our River Road area, and also our Highway 99 area. So, maybe we can learn some things that we've accomplished here that could be applied to other places. And I recognize this is off point in speaking to the library, but it's about making our entire community feel safe and be safe. And it just changes the vibrancy of our community, and recognizing that the library is an important part of our downtown core. It would be nice to learn and grow from this experience that we've had. Angela, a specific question I had, and I certainly may have walked by it and missed it this time, but a while back I was flying out of our Eugene airport and I noticed a book vending machine there, and I thought I stopped and I go, wow, that is something I never would have thought of. But the last time I flew out of Eugene, I didn't see it, but I also wasn't specifically looking for it. It used to be at the top of the escalators as you were going up to the concourse. And my question is that still there? And what was your experience? What was the library's experience with that?
Still there. I just flew out a few weeks ago to Philly. I always pass by and get a story. That was a partnership with our foundation as well as with the airport, who helped start some of those funding costs for it. Beautifully done by Lark's Marketing. It is, I think, the second busiest story machine either in the nation or in the world. Our foundation director was just at conference, and so always loves to go talk to those folks because we're such a popular machine. What I love specifically about our machine is that there is a section for local stories. So within the Lane County area, you can submit your story that gets vetted by staff and then added to the database. You also don't need to visit the airport to see that. There's a link on our website that you can click into to see the stories in case you have to get past the security checkpoint to go see those stories. But I find it one of the most interesting ways. Kids submit a lot of stories, and it's so exciting to see folks push the button and get their ream of stories.
Well, thank you. I thought that was a very innovative thing. And I admit this last flight, it was an 0500 departure time. So I didn't have my coffee eyes in yet. And I'm sure I probably just blew right by it. It wasn't on my mind. But then I thought after I got on the plane, I don't remember seeing that. So, but it made a mark on me. So thank you for being creative and trying new things. And there's more that I could say, but just thank you. And I'll end there.
Thank you, Councilor Groves.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Ye?
Yes, thank you. So Angela, I think what you said was there was a conference hosted in town for libraries. Was it here in Eugene? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, it was the Oregon Library Association conference. Being very lucky to be one of the larger cities in Oregon, every 4 years or so, you will see a ton of librarians who come and flock to the Lane County Event Center in our cardigans and do a bunch of library networking.
That's fantastic. I have a library lady cardigan, as my husband calls it, so I appreciate it. They're so useful. I'm wondering, I don't think this is any new news to you, but it seems like libraries are particularly adept at adapting to the times, right? Most institutions, it takes a lot for them to change course or to bring on new things. Libraries are just, I'm not sure what the secret sauce is. Maybe you do know, but they are just so good at this. And so I'm wondering, and it may be too soon, I don't know how long ago the conference is, but what are the takeaways, like the big takeaways that librarians are talking about and working on? And I'm glad that we were there and sharing our things, but I'm wondering if you have processed it yet. What were your takeaways?
Councilor, you always ask the best questions that get me thinking. I think last year we were talking about digital licenses through our platforms, which I could talk a lot about. There were a lot of things I think that proliferated the national conference this year. First and foremost is the federal changes that are happening and how that impacts libraries. So the Fifth Circuit appeal decision came down at the same time that conference was happening, and it only impacts, I wish the judge was on, it only impacts 3 states in the Fifth Circuit, but it does talk about whether or not libraries are government speech or not, and whether that infringes on what materials are included in libraries. And so we have a huge piece around censorship. At our library, we've been preparing for years in looking at our procedures and policies about how we handle challenges. And so I think that was kind of the talk of the town. Also, LSTA, Carla Hayden, Dr. Carla Hayden, who was the Library of Congress, was at conference. She had a lot of insight into certainly the administration's change and LSTA funding, which helps fund specifically technology and small level grants for rural communities, was impacted. The funding was returned. But I think my bigger concern around the federal level is always, as federal changes happen and then changes happen to the state, how local libraries are impacted. So, for example, changes at the federal level may change the state funding. So for us specifically, we saw the initial cutting of Imagination Library funding, which provides free books to folks 0 to 5 in our community. Whether or not you live at a library, you can just sign up. It's the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. And so the state had initially cut that funding, which would have been a half match. So we would have gotten half through state and federal funding, and then the other half is raised through fundraisers. That money was recently returned, but I do think it's an initial impact of changes at the federal level, changes the state level, changes the city level, which impacts us here on the ground. So certainly a lot of talk about federal changes. I think the second most interesting topic was the proliferation of artificial intelligence. And so we're really trying to be on the cutting edge of what does it mean to have artificially created books enter their way into libraries and into publishers. What does that look like? What is our stance going to be? And so I think there are two ends. There's this thing of how do books and artificial intelligence look like from a publishing side. And then I think there's also this notion of how libraries can use artificial intelligence to benefit our work and to reach out to more people. So I would say those are probably the two biggest themes that I saw a lot.
Those are super interesting. So in the artificial, are we seeing books that are written by AI being published already?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons, one of the more unpopular decisions I think I ever get to make as a library director is we stepped away from our Hoopla platform, which is one of our digital book platforms, which you'll see an impact to our digital collection at a levy report sometime in the future when we see that. But Hoopla's inability to take out works that we would consider fiction that are shelved as nonfiction, so anti-Semitic works, as well as their inability to control artificially created books that then end up on their platform, which means our community members think that they're getting library vetted materials through their library card on their app, and that's actually not what they're getting. And so Hoopla preferred quantity over quality and kind of refused to take a stance on AI generated materials. Coupled with the cost meant it was time for us to leave that platform. But we've recently seen our largest publisher or warehouse here in Oregon, Ingram, has come out and stated there have been AI books on their platform that librarians purchased. And so they're coming out with statements about how they're trying to control that and how to ensure that librarians who are trying their best to vet all of these materials that end up on our shelves are not created or wouldn't meet our test of being added to the library collection.
All right, thank you. That's very interesting.
You asked the best questions.
Well, I try.
Thank you, Councilor Ye. Thank you, Angela. Again, it was a very engaging presentation. I'd love to take you on a road show and have you give presentations about any number of city-related topics, because it was just so interesting, and your voice is it's really engaging. Like I said, I love that you spoke to the loneliness that parents often feel, and that that story time in the kids area is such an important part of our community. I work with, hundreds and hundreds of our community's parents every year, and almost all of them say to us how important that space is. So thank you for that. I love the Bibliomatic Go. How does an organization, did you say there's a link that they can go to apply for that? Where would that link be?
It is on our website. I'll follow up and send you an email. You can also call our staff, our youth services department will help walk you through, but come get tokens. We are so excited to have more community partners jump on board for that one.
Thank you so much. I I know we all appreciate your work and our beautiful, wonderful library.
You guys, thank you for all the kind compliments. You will be seeing more of me. We are in a future levy year, so you'll get to see me after the break a bunch more as we look at the 2026 levy renewal. So thank you for all the kind words.
Definitely. If there's no other comments from counselors, we can end our meeting a little bit early today. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I now close the July 16th, 2025 City Council work session. We are adjourned.